Hi everyone, so welcome to today's story. For today's story, we're going to read a chapter from The House at Pooh Corner. Now, looking at the front cover and the picture next to it, who might this story be about? Do you recognise the bear and the little pig sat on the gate? Do you recognise the animal that's falling out the tree and the boy and his friends trying to catch him? Can you recognise any of them? If you said it was Winnie the Pooh, you would be spot on, because these are the original stories that the Winnie the Pooh adventures come from. Okay, so A.A. Milne wrote them about 100 years ago. He wrote one story about the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and then he wrote The House at Pooh Corner. And we've seen lots of examples of this, because you might have read the stories, you might have seen the animations, you might have seen the Disney films that have been made since, and these are very famous and they are much loved all over the world. Can you think of any reasons why these stories are loved by lots of people? Chapter 1, in which a house is built at Pooh Corner for Eeyore. One day, when Pooh Bear had nothing else to do, he thought he would do something, so he went round to Piglet's house to see what Piglet was doing. So how's he feeling right now? It was still snowing as he stumped over the white forest track, and he expected to find Piglet warming his toes in front of his fire, but to his surprise he saw that the door was open, and the more he looked inside, the more Piglet wasn't there. "He's out," said Pooh sadly. "That's what it is. He's not in. I shall have to go on a fast thinking walk by myself. Bother." But first he thought that he would knock very loudly just to make quite sure. And while he waited for Piglet not to answer, he jumped up and down to keep warm, and a hum came suddenly into his head, which seemed to him a good hum, such as is hummed hopefully to others. "The more it snows, tiddly bum, the more it goes tiddly bum, the more it goes tiddly bum, on snowing, and nobody knows tiddly bum, how cold my toes, tiddly bum, how cold my toes, tiddly bum, are growing." So that's the main poem we're going to be looking at, okay? "So what I'll do," said Pooh, "is I'll do this. I'll just go home first and see what the time is, and perhaps I'll put a muffler around my neck, and then I'll go and see Eeyore and sing it to him." He hurried back to his own house, and his mind was so busy on the way with the hum that he was getting ready for Eeyore, that when he suddenly saw Piglet sitting in his best armchair, he could only stand there rubbing his head and wondering whose house he was in. So Pooh has gone so fast he's confused himself, and he's been so preoccupied with his hum that he's not realised Piglet is sitting in his house. "Hello, Piglet," he said. "I thought you were out." "No," said Piglet. "It's you who were out, Pooh." "So it was," said Pooh. "I knew one of us was." He looked up at his clock, which had stopped at 5 minutes to 11 some weeks ago. "Nearly 11 o'clock," said Pooh happily. "You're just in time for a little smackerel of something," and he put his head into the cupboard. "And then we'll go out, Piglet, and sing my song to Eeyore." So it says a little smackerel. Last week we looked at nonsense words. What do you think the word smackerel means? "Which song, Pooh?" "The one we're going to sing to Eeyore," explained Pooh. The clock was still saying 5 minutes to 11 when Pooh and Piglet set out on their way half an hour later. The wind had dropped and the snow down until it found a place on which to rest, and sometimes the place was Pooh's nose, and sometimes it wasn't, and in a little while Piglet was wearing a white muffler around his neck and feeling more snowy behind the ears than he ever felt before. Why do you think Piglet's muffler had turned white? "Pooh," he said at last, and then a little timidly, because he didn't want Pooh to think he was giving in. I was just wondering, how would it be if we went home now and practiced your song and then sang it to Eeyore tomorrow or the next day when we happen to see him?" "That's a very good idea, Piglet," said Pooh. "We'll practice it now as we go along, but it's no good going home to practice it because it's a special outdoor song which has to be sung in the snow." "Are you sure?" asked Piglet anxiously. Remember that word anxiously? We talked about that last week. "Well, you'll see, Piglet, when you listen, because this is how it goes. The more it snows, tiddly pom." "Tiddly what?" said Piglet. "Pom," said Pooh. "I put that in to make it more hummy. The more it goes, tiddly pom, the more..." "Didn't you say snows?" "Yes, but that was before. Before the tiddly pom. It was a different tiddly pom," said Pooh, feeling rather muddled now. I'll sing it to you properly, and then you'll see." So he sang it again. The more it snows, Tiddly Pop. The more it goes, Tiddly Pop. The more it goes, Tiddly Pop. On snowing, and nobody knows, Tiddly Pop. How cold my toes, Tiddly Pop. How cold my toes, Tiddly Pop, are growing. How is that different to the first version that he did? And why do you think he's changed it slightly to help? He sang it like that, which is much the best way of singing it, and when he had finished, he waited for Piglet to say that of all the outdoor hums for snowy weather he had ever heard, this was the best. And after thinking the matter out carefully, Piglet said, "Pooh," he said solemnly, "it isn't the toes so much as the ears." So which part of Piglet is really, really cold? By this time, they were getting near Eeyore's gloomy place, which is where he lived, and as it was still very snowy behind Piglet's ears, and he was getting very tired of it, they turned into a little pine wood and sat down on the gate which led into it. That's the picture that's right at the start of this chapter. They were out of the snow now, but it was very cold, and to keep themselves warm, they sang Pooh's song through 6 times, Piglet ding the tiddly poms and Pooh doing the rest. So Pooh was singing most of it and Piglet was doing the tiddly poms, and both of them thumping into the top of the gate with pieces of sticks at the proper places. And in a little while they felt much warmer and were able to talk again. So how have they got warmer? Think about our science from last week. I've been thinking, said Pooh, and what I've been thinking about is this. I've been thinking about Eeyore. What about Eeyore? Well, poor Eeyore has nowhere to live. No, he has, said Piglet. You have a house, Piglet, and I have a house, and Owl and Kanga and Rabbit have houses, and even Rabbit's friends and relations have houses or something, but poor Eeyore has nothing. So what I've been thinking is, let's build him a house. That, said Piglet, is a grand idea. Where shall we build it? We'll build it here, said Pooh, just by the wood, out of the wind, because this is where I thought of it. And we will call this Pooh Corner, and we will build on an Eeyore house with sticks at Pooh Corner for Eeyore. There was a heap of sticks on the other side of the wood, said Piglet. I saw them, lots and lots, all piled up. Thank you, Piglet, said Pooh. What you have just said will be of great help to us, and because of it, I could call this place Pooh and Piglet Corner, if Pooh Corner didn't sound better, which it does, being smaller and more like a corner. Come along. So they got down off the gate and went round to the other side of the wood to fetch the sticks. So Piglet's come up with the idea to help Pooh build his house for Eeyore. Christopher Robin had spent the morning indoors going to Africa and back, and he'd just got off the boat and was wondering what it was like outside, when who should come knocking at the door but Eeyore. "Hello, Eeyore," said Christopher Robin as he opened the door and came out. "How are you?" Do you think Christopher Robin's really been to Africa this morning? If you don't know, Christopher Robin is the little boy in the on the front cover and the boy in the story who's friends with all of the animals of the 100-acre wood. "It's snowing still," said Eeyore gloomily. "So it is." "And freezing." "Is it?" "Yes," said Eeyore. "However," he said, brightening up a little, "we haven't had an earthquake lately." "What's the matter, Eeyore?" "Nothing, Christopher Robin. Nothing important. I suppose you haven't seen a house or whatnot anywhere about." "What sort of house?" "Just a house." Who lives there?" "I do. At least I thought I did. But suppose I don't. After all, we can't all have houses." "But Eeyore, I didn't know. I always thought—" "I don't know how it is, Christopher Robin, but with all this snow and one thing and another, not to mention icicles and such like, it isn't so hot in my field about 3 o'clock in the morning as some people think it is. It isn't stuffy. In fact, Christopher Robin, quite between ourselves and don't tell anybody, it's cold." "Oh, Eeyore." And I said to myself, the others will be sorry if I'm getting myself all cold. They haven't got brains, any of them, only grey fluff that's blown into their heads by mistake, and they don't think. But if it goes on snowing for another 6 weeks or so, one of them will begin to say to himself, Eeyore can't be very much too hot about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then it will get about, and they'll be sorry. "Oh, Eeyore," said Christopher Robin, feeling very sorry already. "I don't mean you, Christopher Robin. You're different. So what it all come to is that I built myself a house down by Little Wood." "Did you really? How exciting!" So how is Eeyore feeling? What's happened with him? And how is Christopher Robin feeling right now? The really exciting part, said Eeyore in his most melancholy voice, is that when I left in this morning, it was there, and when I came back, it wasn't. Not at all. Very natural, and it was only Eeyore's house. But still, I just wondered. Christopher Robin didn't stop to wonder. He was already back in his house, putting on his waterproof hat, his waterproof boots, and his waterproof Macintosh as fast as he could. A Macintosh is like a coat. What do you think Christopher Robin's going to do next? We'll go and look for it at once, he called out to Eeyore. Sometimes, said Eeyore, when people have quite finished taking a person's house, there are one or two bits which they don't want and are rather good for the person to take back, if you know what I mean. So I thought if we just went, come on, said Christopher Robin, and off they hurried, and in a very little time they got to the corner of the field by the side of the pine wood, where Eeyore's house wasn't any longer. There, said Eeyore, not a stick left. Of course, I've still got all the snow to do what I like with. One mustn't complain. But Christopher Robin wasn't listening to Eeyore. He was listening to something else. Can you hear it? He asked. What is it? Somebody laughing? Listen. They both listened, and they heard a deep, gruff voice saying in a singing voice that the more it snowed, the more it went on snowing, and a small, high voice tiddly pomming in between. It's Pooh, said Christopher Robin excitedly. Possibly, said Eeyore. And Piglet, said Christopher Robin excitedly. Probably, said Eeyore. What we want is a trained bloodhound. The words of the song changed suddenly. We've finished our house, sang the gruff voice. Tiddly Pop, sang the squeaky one. It's a beautiful house, Tiddly Pop. I wish it were mine, Tiddly Pop. Pooh, shouted Christopher Robin. The singers on the gate suddenly stopped suddenly. It's Christopher Robin, said Pooh eagerly. He's round by the place where we got all the sticks from, said Piglet. So what have Pooh and Piglet been doing? Come on, said Pooh. They climbed down the gate and hurried around the corner of the wood, Pooh making welcoming noises all the way. Why, here is Eeyore, said Pooh when he had finished hugging Christopher Robin, and he nudged Piglet and Piglet nudged him, and they thought to themselves what a lovely surprise they had got ready. Hello, Eeyore. Same to you, Pooh Bear, and twice on Thursdays, said Eeyore gloomily. Before Pooh could say why Thursdays, Christopher Robin began to explain the sad story of Eeyore's lost house, and Pooh and Piglet listened, and their eyes seemed to get bigger and bigger. Why are their eyes getting bigger and bigger? Where did you say it was? Asked Pooh. Just here, said Eeyore. Made of stick? Yes. Oh, said Piglet. What? Said Eeyore. I just said, oh, said Piglet nervously, and as to seem quite at ease, he hummed Tiddly Pop once or twice in a what shall we do now kind of way. So Pooh and Piglet are really excited to share their house and what they've done to help Eeyore, but Pooh and Piglet don't want to give away the surprise at the moment. You're sure it was a house? Said Pooh. I mean, you're sure the house was just here? Of course I am, said Eeyore, and he murmured to himself, no brain at all, some of them. Well, what's the matter, Pooh? Asked Christopher Robin. Well, said Pooh, the fact is, said Pooh. Well, the fact is, said Pooh. You see, said Pooh, it's like this, said Pooh, and something seemed to tell him that he wasn't explaining very well, and he nudged Piglet again. It's like this, said Piglet quickly. Only warmer, he added after deep thought. What's warmer? The other side of the wood where Eeyore's house is. My house? Said Eeyore. My house was here. No, said Piglet firmly, the other side of the wood. Because of being warmer, said Pooh. But I ought to know. Come and look, said Piglet simply, and he led the way. There wouldn't be two houses, said Pooh, not so close together. They came round the corner, and there was Eeyore's house, looking as comfy as anything. There you are, said Piglet. Inside as well as outside, said Pooh proudly. Eeyore went inside and came out again. It's a remarkable thing, he said. It's my house, and I built it where I said it did, so the wind must have blown it here, and the wind blew it right over the wood and blew it down here, and here it is as good as ever. In fact, better in places. Much better, said Pooh and Piglet together. It just shows what can be done by taking a little trouble, said Eeyore. Do you see, Pooh? Do you see, Piglet? Brains first and the hard work. Look at it. That's the way to build a house, said Pooh proudly. So they left him in it, and Christopher Robin went back to lunch with his friends Pooh and Piglet, and on the way they told him of the awful mistake they had made, and when he had finished laughing, they all sang the outdoor song for snowy weather the rest of the way home, Piglet, who was still not quite sure of his voice, putting in the Tiddly Poms again. And I know it seems easy, said Piglet to himself, but it isn't everyone who could do it. So what have they done for Eeyore? What did they do for him?